Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This morning I was in Unity Primary School to find out whether I could participate in the ODM nominations that are going on. So after that, I came back home with the news of the demise, or rather the death of the third president of the Republic of Kenya, Emilion Stanley Mwai Kibaki. So Mwai Kibaki has gone to rest with the Lord. This is news that have really taken the country in shock because Kibaki was a public figure and a common figure and a leader in this country for 10 years before exiting the political space in 2013. Last moments of Kibaki have to be traced with his tenure in government, having been privileged to serve both in Moi government, Kenyatta government, and his own government. I know that a lot is in the public space on the personality of Mwai Kibaki, having been born in 1931, so he passed on at 90 years, and served a career person, studied in Mangu High School, and Makerere University, and also studied in London, where he studied economics, political science, and history. These were skills that helped Kibaki to come up and become a formidable leader in this country. In this channel today, let us just react to how best do you remember Mwai Kibaki. In this brief video, I am just going to pick up a snippet of his last moments, but I'll try to be more elaborate from when he got into government and until the time that he exited the space. And all through that, we are going to learn more about Mwai Kibaki. In 1969, after that general election, Kibaki was appointed the Minister of Finance and Planning by then President Jomo Kenyatta, a position he served until 1978. When Jomo Kenyatta passed on, Mwai Kibaki was part of his cabinet and was a Minister of Finance. Then by that time, when Moi took over, Moi promoted Kibaki to be the Vice President. By then, the Vice President was appointee of the President. By then, that was the law until 2010, when the Constitution was changed. So when he assumed office, he was a Vice President, but he was still put in charge of the finance portfolio. And that shows our current politicians. They are politicians that have just taken politics as a matter of getting votes and going to sit in parliament. But what we can also capture from Kibaki is that you need to have a career. So that even if you get to parliament, if you are to be picked to head a committee, you have expertise in that. That's why Kibaki was a finance minister even after the death of Jomo Kenyatta. He served in that position until 1982, when I think it was after the coup that Moi became a bit agitated, but changed the finance portfolio, gave that ministry to another person, and put Kibaki a vice president and in charge of home affairs. They worked with Kibaki, and if you read the stories around Kibaki, is that Kibaki was the gentleman civil servant. Up until then, he did not even have intentions of running for the big office in this country. In 1988, after that Mlolongo election, Kibaki was still with Moi, but Moi was feeling a little bit uncomfortable with him and demoted him from the vice president to Minister of Health. And he did not complain. In fact, At some point, people are saying that Kibaki was Moi's partner boy. What you see in that was someone who was loyal to the boss. And these are conversations that have been in public space in terms of how Kibaki was loyal. He worked with Moi, and by that time, in the 1991, the unrest of the end of multipartyism was going on, and the push for repeal of Section 2A was gaining momentum. And in the famous pronouncement in Kasarani, to allow for removal of that Section 2A and usher the multi-party politics, Kibaki shocked the nation when he made a bold decision to resign from government on December 1991, Christmas Day. And he resigned from government to form the Democratic Party. This is something that he was blamed because he was being perceived as someone who was the most loyal leader to Mwai Kibaki, to the late president, Daniel Teacher Mwai. When he came out and went all the way to the ballot. That even made him go against Peter, the Kenneth Matiba, because Matiba was formerly with the Ford team, including Matiba, Paul Muite, and Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, and I think the Martin Shikoku. So that team was the Ford, but then he went and became the second runner-up. He again tried to seek presidency in 1997, but he did not make it. Then the famous 2002 happened when Raila Odinga, or rather the opposition, formed one movement known as Kenya, and Raila Odinga went to Uhuru Park to endorse Mwai Kibaki in the famous Kibaki Tosha. A journey that would make him become the president in the 2002 started way back in 1991. And I want to believe that the presidential ambitions of the late Mwai Kibaki might be harbored way back by the time he was still vice president to Jomo Kenyatta. But he decided to keep those ambitions below the carpet. And at the right time, he decided to leave government and go and make that decision. And by the way, from that moment to the time he became president, he played opposition politics for 10 years. One thing you might see in Kibaki is that he was a steadfast leader, making a decision and standing with that decision. The fallout in the cabinet happened after making the government, because there was an MOU of Raila to become a prime minister and the government share. But defiant, or let us say unifying Kibaki, decided to absorb some of the KANU leaders back in the cabinet, despite the fact that they had faced off with the KANU luminaries in the 2002 general election. That was a way to try to manage his second term, to try to accommodate many people so that he could get the second term in the 2007 general election. The fallout happened, and a push to amend the constitution fell off when Raila Odinga walked out with a team, Raila, Uhuru, Ruto, and even Kalonzo Musyoka joined that team to oppose the constitution in the ODM. That led to the birth of ODM. And Kibaki became very angry, and the next day he fired everyone in the cabinet and did a cabinet reshuffle where most of the members of ODM that had opposed the constitution and went against Kibaki were actually shown the door. He engineered and struggled, consolidated a team until they faced the 2007 general election. He's been blamed for the dispute and all that happened in terms of the election rigging. But you can take away everything from Kibaki in terms of the 2007 general election skirmishes. But you cannot take away the fact that the gentleman politician in him allowed him to sit ground and accepted to form the Grand Coalition government. In the Grand Coalition government, there is a quality of Kibaki that emerged, that he was very accommodative. And when the Prime Minister Raila Odinga fired fired Deputy President William Ruto from the cabinet, it took the intervention of Kibaki to bring back William Ruto. Kibaki also had the interest of the Central Kenya people, because in that negotiation, the current president Uhuru Kenyatta was picked as one of the deputy prime ministers and minister of finance. He was actually minister of finance, and the assistant minister was Oburu Odinga. Now, what happened by then is that he decided to be part, to at least craft a transition. And many have argued that one of the things why Uhuru was never seeing eye to eye with Martha Karua is because Martha Karua had a sense of entitlement, that of course she was to be given that position. Now, let's look at the fallout between Kibaki and Martha Karua. When Kibaki appointed judges without the intervention, without the input of Martha Karua, while Martha Karua was the Minister of Legal and Justice Affairs, he walked away. Martha Karua walked away from government. But in something you can see in Mwai Kibaki is that he was a decision maker. Lastly, there are two aspects that people have begun to look at. One is on the deliverables. In a position, Kibaki's possibility or Kibaki's goodwill in delivering the policies he agitated for. He's credited for two things. One is infrastructure, the road network. He's the pioneer of most of the programs that were achieved by the President Uhuru Kenyatta in the 2013, when he formed government in 2013. But then, lastly, the best that you can take from Kibaki is free primary education in 2002. This is something that came, and people were so skeptical about it. But as an economist, someone who had a background in economy, he knew how exactly it was going to be implemented. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a bit of what we can grasp the last moments of Emilion Stanley Mwai Kibaki. He passed on this morning, and yet to confirm, because there were reports that Raila might suspend the tour to US if they had not left, but then yet to follow. You can also get to a comment section and tell us what or how best do you remember Mwai Kibaki.